Good afternoon everyone. Happy Friday and welcome to this week's Stampin' Chat Live. It's, March the 18th. Easter is approaching and we're going to be making some Easter cards in a little while. And if you don't send Easter cards, don't worry because they are all customizable so that you can use them for other occasions. Mother's Day, if you need a Mother's Day card, for thank you cards, for birthday cards, for just because, for those useful blank cards that I'm sure you've all got a stash of just in case. So it's all going to be possible this afternoon. As always, let me know if you can hear me okay. Once again, I'm not using my microphone. I'm still having problems with it interfacing with Facebook, unfortunately. So I will try to speak straight onto my phone, which is what I'm recording this on, and to speak a little bit louder than usual, and hopefully the volume will hold up and you will be okay. But if you can't hear me and you're watching live, let me know. If you're watching this on the replay on Facebook or afterwards on the recording for YouTube, you are just as welcome. Thank you for joining me. All right, so what have I got? I've written some notes, as I always do, so I try not to forget what I need to say to you. A reminder that this month's sweet sampler is New Horizons. I showed you that in detail last week. I'll give you a very quick look in a minute when I put the camera down, but you can order that up until the 25th of this month, which is, I think that's next, is that next week? Yes, next Friday. I'm just pulling out my information to check I've just given you the right date, which I have. Then I order everything, I cut it all up, I pack it all up, I post it out to you, and I aim to post it by the 29th of April. So I give myself about a month because you never know how long shipping is going to take. And with Easter coming up and the early ordering that demonstrators can do from the upcoming catalogue, that's all coming. And I'll tell you a bit more about that in a minute. You never know how long things are going to take. But you may get them earlier than expected. This month I was able to send out the Flowering Field samplers earlier than I expected to, so that was all good. All right, what else do I need to tell you? I'm placing an order tomorrow, which is Saturday the 19th of March. If there's anything you need, let me know. If you can pick it up from me, either at a class or from my home in Lymington, then you can just pay a share of the shipping charge, which will be £1 on top of whatever you order. Obviously, I can also organise for things to be sent directly to you at home, and you can order from my website. And when I turn the camera down, you'll get my website details there, just in case you didn't know them. All right, what else do I have to tell you? The in colours, the ones that are going to disappear. So that is, let's see if I can remember them all. Magenta Madness, Just Jade, Cinnamon Cider, Misty Moonlight, and there's one more, isn't there? What is it? Bumblebee. It's Bumblebee. I was looking to the side where I've got all my markers, and that prompted me, Bumblebee. Some of those items we are still waiting for stock on. Some of them have come into the warehouse. Well, it depends on whether you want card or ink pads and ribbon, what have you. You can always get an up-to-date situation for the stock if you go to my online shop and just look up the item you're looking for, and there it will tell you if it's in stock or not. As a demonstrator, I get a list which is updated multiple times a day, but it's on a different system to the website where you can order, which means that you actually can see more up-to-date information than I can, and sometimes I go to my own website just to check. So if there's anything like that you want, you can see whether it's in stock. If you'd like me to order it, there's an order going in tomorrow. Mary's here and she says hi to everyone. Hi Mary, and thank you for joining me. So yes, the new catalogue. I will see the new catalogue next Wednesday, yes, the 23rd. As one of the huge perks of being a demonstrator is we get to see the new catalogue much earlier than our customers do, and we can also order from it early, only from a selected range of items if it's the annual catalogue, because they physically don't have room in the warehouse for everything from the current catalogue, which of course is still being ordered, plus everything from the forthcoming annual catalogue. So those items come in gradually, and we as demonstrators can order early a few of them. So I'm looking forward to getting my hands on some new goodies. We are also getting revealed to us over the next few days the new in colours, which are replacing the ones that I listed to you earlier. So I'm going to really look forward to seeing what those are. I'm just going to get you all up on my iPad because I've seen a few comments whiz by and I can't read them fast enough. So let me find myself on here, and then I should be able to see if there's anything that I needed to answer. Let's have a look. Okay. Oh, Belinda's here. Belinda says hello to everyone. Hi Belinda, thank you for joining me on this beautiful sunny afternoon. All right, I sent out an email to all my current customers and also anybody else on my mailing list a couple of days ago, Tuesday I think it was, about the fact that shipping charges are going to be going up and there are going to be some price changes in the new catalogue. I'm not going to go into the whole thing now because I've put it all in an email. If you know you're on my mailing list and you haven't seen the email, check your junk folder just in case it went in there. And scroll down a bit. I found an email the other day that I hadn't realised had come in. To my horror, it had been there about a week and it had just got lost in everything. But if you can't find that information, just let me know and I can send it out to you again. Yes, I'm just checking. I've written some notes, but they're not bullet pointy enough. I've written sentences, which is not really good if I've got to consult them quickly, is it? Okay, so yes, so I've told you about that. Nobody likes price increases, do they? But you know as well as I do that pretty much everything you buy has gone up on where it was last year, probably on where it was just a few months ago. I try really hard to give you very good value when you order from me, whether you come to a class and pay for the materials you're using there, whether you actually order from me, or whether we interact in any other way. I try my best to give you excellent customer service and the best value I can. So hopefully that will slightly mitigate the fact that we all have to pay a little bit more for everything these days. I keep reminding myself that actually life could be an awful lot worse than we've got it here. So yeah, don't know if that helps you or not. All right, the last thing for me to say is it really helps me get seen by other people who might not know I'm here if you can like and share this on Facebook. If you're watching the replay on YouTube, it really helps me. Again, if you like it, you can always leave me a comment. I love to read what you say and I always reply. And if you subscribe to my channel on YouTube, then you will always be able to easily find me. And if you hit that little bell for notifications, then you will get sent a message every time I upload a new video, so you won't miss any of them. Carol's here. Hi Carol, lovely to see you. Says you just managed to connect. I'm sorry if you've been having problems. Never good. Oh gosh, that tea's a little bit hot yet. It is a beautiful day here in Hampshire. It was very foggy to start with and chilly, but now it's absolutely gorgeous outside. The birds are singing their heart out. They're all flying around and pairing up. The rooks are very well into their nesting. I've been out in the garden just for 5 minutes at lunchtime. I've seen bumblebees and I even saw a brimstone butterfly, which is I think my first this year. That beautiful bright yellow early spring butterfly. So it's lovely here. I hope wherever you're watching me from it's equally nice. I would love to know what you're doing at the weekend. So I'm going to just put the camera down onto my desk. While I'm doing that, you can type me a comment and tell me what your plans are for the weekend. Because you know me, I love to know what you're up to. So let's cover you over. The movement of the camera hopefully doesn't affect you. And let's try and get everything as well as I can. Well, my plans for the weekend aren't very complicated at all. I'm going to try and catch up with my online art course. Some of you know that I do an online art course, and I didn't get any done while I was away, and I didn't do any last weekend because last weekend was lovely, but it didn't quite go as planned. So I have several weeks worth of art to catch up on. I won't, of course, catch it all up this weekend, but hopefully I will be able to catch some of it up. Right, I've just realised I've forgotten to put the screen mirroring on. It would help if I did that. Otherwise you won't be able to see me. And oh, I've just moved everything doing that. Oh gosh, I'm a rank amateur, aren't I, at this? Really not very professional. Okay, I think I'm there. I'll no doubt have to fiddle a little bit just once I can see what you can see. Okay, so let's move my working surface up a little bit. You've got the tripod leg. My tripod does not have an arm on it, so I'm afraid you are stuck with the tripod leg. How is that? Not too bad. So Carol's got art homework too, and a Mother's Day card and her sister's birthday card to make. Well, that is going to keep you busy, Carol, but enjoy it. All art and crafting is lovely to have to do, so that's not too bad a list, hopefully. Right, that's got a bit crumpled, hasn't it? I need a new one for next time. That's my website, that's my email. Email is always the best way to get hold of me. So Belinda is also trying to catch up with the online art class. Yes, Belinda and I are doing the same online art class. So I'm glad you haven't roared ahead, Belinda. I feel a bit better about it now. She's also going to be making some cards for commissions. That's exciting, Belinda. I'm not surprised you're getting commissioned. Your cards are beautiful. Right, let me very quickly show you the New Horizons Sweet Sampler. So you have, I think it's 6 sheets of card in colours that are going to coordinate with the patterned paper. Let's put them that way. That might be easier for you to see. No, not that way, Sally. That way. There we are. You've got 2 meters of ribbon. This is the ribbon that coordinates with the suite. You have got a third of a pack of the enamel pebbles shapes. They're calling them enamel. They look more like resin to me, but you know, I'm not a manufacturing person, so I may be wrong. And then I'm going to very quickly just page through this beautiful New Horizons paper. You get half a pack of this, which is 2 sheets of each of the designs. They're gorgeous, gorgeous watercolour designs. You can turn them into landscapes. You can cut them into smaller pieces when they look much more abstract. They are absolutely stunning when you stamp on them. And you may have seen my Facebook Live a few weeks ago when I did that. It was on, I think it was something like the 11th of February. I'm just going to show you the reverse now. I think that one should have been in there. There we go. And you can also see that video on YouTube. It's probably my most watched YouTube video recently. People have really enjoyed getting ideas for this absolutely gorgeous paper. That's another landscape. Lots of these on the back have just got coloured watercolour washes. Lots of them look like they've had salt sprinkled on them as well. You're probably familiar with that technique. There we go. So they are stunning. These are lovely as backgrounds or die cut. If you like to make paper flowers, they are beautiful for that as well. Right, I'm just going to pop them back in here so I don't get ink on them. So that little lot is going to be £12 if you can collect it from me, or it's £14 if you'd like me to post it to you. You have until March the 25th to let me know you would like one. You can email me on the email I gave you earlier, and then I will let you know about payment and so on. Okay, let's tuck all that in there, and then I can set that aside. Right, so Easter cards then. Okay, I have, my baskets seem to be full of all sorts of things here. Well, Belinda's saying there's no chance of her roaring ahead of me on the art class. I think that's what you're referring to, our art class, Belinda. Maureen's here. Hello, Maureen's lovely to have you here. Okay, Belinda is in my Stampin' Up! Demonstrator team, which is absolutely lovely. And we've got a crafting session coming up in about a week. Yeah, just over a week. She says her crafting pack for that arrived today, as well as her council tax bill. No prize for guessing which one she's opened. Yes, I'd have been the same, Belinda. When you join my team, we get together monthly. Some of the time we do a virtual get-together, and some of the time we do a face-to-face get-together for local people. And people who join Stampin' Up! With me also get an invitation to a half day of crafting with my compliments. If you aren't local, so you can't unfortunately come to that, then I send you a bundle of goodies as well. So There are so many benefits for joining Stampin' Up, but my favourite one is getting together with my team because I do really enjoy that. Alright, so first of all I'm going to show an Easter card that I'm not going to make today, and this was from this month's card class. So I just thought that I would show you this because those little dancing ducklings are so happy. I do really love them. And they're from the Easter Friends stamp set, which I am going to use on a card. So this is the stamp set. This has been really popular with lots of you, I know. I mean, this little bunny is gorgeous for anything. My daughter's favourite animal is rabbits, so I know that I'm going to be using him throughout the year on cards for her. But there is also this little chick, and here's the dancing duckling. And then we've got a happy Easter, and then we've got some other words in it as well. So it's a lovely stamp set for using for Easter and spring generally, I think. Also great for children's cards. If you make cards for grandchildren or your own children, then I think it's a brilliant set for that as well. So I thought I would start off with a tall card for a change. Pull out all my bits here. So I'm going to use one of these tall envelopes, which I've shown you before. Because it's white, it doesn't show very well on my grid paper probably, but they have a lovely printed inside. They come in a pack of 15, 5 of each colour, so you get 5 grey, 5 soft succulent and 5 white. They're really nice. Oh, let me give you the measurements. The envelope is 3 7/8 by 8 7/8, and I'll put down a piece of paper in just a minute with the card size that you need to cut to fit the envelope. Just a note, these are not DL envelopes. Very often this style of long, slightly narrower card in this country is a DL envelope, and you can find those you know, in all sorts of places to buy. This is a slightly different size, so just be aware of that. If you're used to making DL cards, you'll just have to tailor your card base slightly to fit in here. But I do think the printed inside makes them a little bit special, and let's put that on there. They also have a shaped flap, which is really nice as well. Alright, so I have picked, actually I've picked for all my cards today, no, all my cards, most of my cards, 2 of my cards and 1 slightly, lots of white is what I'm trying to say. So I've brought in some colours, but I've kept them light because it's spring coming. So I've got a thick white card base here, and let me put those measurements down for you. So my card base is 8 3/4 by 7.5 inches, and I've had it portrait, that's the short side at the top, and I've scored it at 3 3/4 inches. So this is thick white. If you want white for a card base, you definitely want the thick white card. Don't use the standard weight card. It's perfect for layers, but it's not robust enough to keep its shape if you make a card base with it. And then I've cut a layer of polished pink, which is 3.5 inches by 8.5 inches. So I've just gone down 1/4 inch on both measurements compared with my card base. I love pink. Those of you who know me well know that it's one of my, well, probably my favourite colour actually, closely followed by yellow. And I kind of veer between the two, but I do come back to pink. There we go. So this is polished pink, which is a beautiful pink. It's not too bright. Not really in your face, but it's definitely a nice a pink colour. All right, then I've got a piece of white card here. This is standard weight card, standard weight white card. Can't speak today. And this measures 3 3/8 inches by 8 3/8 of an inch. So it's just 1/8 of an inch smaller. That means that when I put it on here, I'm just going to have a really narrow border around it. So I'm keeping quite a lot of white showing with just a hint of pink on there. And I'm going to stamp on this. So I'm going to bring in my bunny stamp, and I have basic grey ink here. I'm going to colour the rabbit in, and if I'm doing something that I don't want to become too dark, I often use basic grey rather than black to stamp in. It's just a little bit softer, a little bit less harsh. I'm going to stamp my little bunny up towards the top. Now, if you don't have these stamps, you may have another, you know, cute and cuddly animal or bird stamp, and that will work beautifully. Or you might have a spray of flowers, or you might have a tree. So, you know, depending on what effect you want, what card you're going to make. If you are making an Easter card, you're making one for another occasion, you can use this exact same layout and measurements that I'm using. Just adjust the stamps that you're using yourself. All right, so I'm now going to colour in the rabbit. I've got my Stampin Blends here, and I've gone with crumb cake. But do you know, I thought earlier, I dug out crumb cake, and then I had a passing thought that maybe I'd use grey. So actually I'm just going to try grey. Let me see how, this is smoky slate. Let me see how dark this is. I don't know how dark that is for a little bit of shading. Do you know, I might do a grey rabbit actually. I've got another one to show you in a minute with a brown rabbit, so let's go with grey. I don't think that's going to be too dark. Now, I love Stampin Blends. They are alcohol ink based markers, which means that you need to stamp the image that you are using in a water-based ink. If you use something like StazOn, which is a solvent-based ink, then what you'll find is that as you go to colour in, the alcohol ink in the blends markers will actually smudge your outline, and nobody wants that. So there we go. I'm not sure. I might well not go completely across his face. Might leave a little bit of white on here. So I've got the light and the dark smoky slate. I'm just kind of doing this by ear. This isn't quite like the one I did earlier. I don't know. I might leave a little white highlight. I might not. Yes, I think I will. And then the areas of shading which are stamped already around here, I'm going over them in quite a rough and ready way with the dark shade of smoky slate, and then I'm just going to go over it again, particularly around the edges, which just helps blend it in and avoid any harsh lines. There are lots of different ways to colour in using alcohol ink markers. I don't consider myself an expert, but I do really like them. I can tell you that it's much better to not colour in too large an area at a time, because for the shading to look most effective, you want to be working wet into wet. So put down plenty of the light colour, then add your dark colour while that light is still wet, and then you can just blend around the edges so you don't get any harsh colour difference between the light and the dark. When people have trouble with these, very often it's because they're not putting enough ink down. Okay, so I'm going to try, no, I'll do that arm first, and then I'll work on the rest of his body. I'm calling it an arm. Do rabbits have arms? They probably don't. It's probably a front leg, isn't it? Never mind. Okay. The other thing with alcohol ink markers is that you don't need to work in a particular direction with them. You can see that I was being quite scribbly with that light one there. Make his tummy just a little bit darker. I've gone over that a second time. But I am trying to work quite fast because this is actually quite a large area. And I want the ink to be wet when I add the dark colour. And this one feels like it needs replacing. Time for a new smoky slate marker, I think. adding that to my order tomorrow. There we are. I usually use the bullet point of these because I find it just a little bit easier to control, but there is also a brush tip here which just gives you a much broader stroke compared with the bullet. You can see the difference there, hopefully. Alright, so that is my little rabbit coloured in. So I'm going to put those aside, and I'm going to give him some grass so he's not floating in the air. This image is also in the stamp set, and I'm using Mint Macaron ink, which is a really soft green. And I'm just overlapping these. I'm not trying to be particularly neat. I'm going to be putting some more layers on the bottom. So part of this is almost certainly going to be covered up by that. I'll check in a minute. So I've done multiple stampings, inking my stamp each time. Now I'm going to stamp off and just add a little bit extra to fill in some of those white gaps and give a little sense of the grass kind of fading into the distance. There we are. Maybe one more just there. Looks a bit pale. Right, I'll lift that up and show you. Hopefully I'm holding it in the right place. There's a long time delay before I can see what you can see. There he is. Alright, so I'm just going to put my piece of patterned paper on here and see if I've stamped enough grass, which I have. So this is the 2021 to 2023 In Colours designer series paper. So these colours are not disappearing, but this pattern of paper may well. And that piece of patterned paper is 3 3/8 of an inch by 4.5 inches. And I'm just going to stick that in place. Now, I could have cut off this bottom section and just stuck the top part with the rabbit and then stuck the patterned paper on here, but I find it so much easier to work with this behind the paper because it adds a little bit of support. So I have cut my white card layer the full size. But if it's important to you to save a bit of card, then you could do it the other way. There we are. I'm going to pop some ribbon around this. So this is polished pink ribbon, so the same colour as my contrast card layer. See if I can tie a bow live first time. Sometimes it works and sometimes it does not. I've got a bit of a twist in that. Let's just sort that out. Am I going to end up with my strands at the top? Yes, I am. Somebody who is more scientific than me would probably be able to tell me why that sometimes happens. You end up with your tails facing up. When that happens to me, I just turn my card round and tie the bow on upside down, and then that normally sorts it out. I don't know why it happens. It's obviously something to do with the way the knot in the ribbon forms, but I don't know. There we go. That's going to be fine now, isn't it? Okay, can't see my ribbon scissors. Let's use these. Alright, so I'm just going to get that ribbon down to where I want it, which is more like that. And just to stop everything moving as I'm gluing, I'm going to pop a glue dot on the back if I can find them. They were in one of the other buckets. There we are. And while I've got this turned over, one of the characteristics of alcohol ink is that it will bleed through to the back. So don't colour in using them on your best wooden dining table or anything else that matters. Grid paper is a brilliant thing to have in your craft room because you can measure on it, it helps you keep things straight, and it also catches any extra ink. So I highly recommend it. Right, I'm going to bring back my card base and glue this on. And I've got that ribbon on the back just held there with a glue dot, so it's not going to slide around, and it will stay where I want it while I'm sorting out this layer. Right, so I am going to make this into an Easter card. So I've got a little strip of white card here. This is the same width as my white card, which is 3 3/8 inches wide, and it's 7/8 of an inch deep, but that will depend on which stamp you're using. I'm going to use the Happy Easter stamp from this same stamp set, but if you're using something different, then you may well want to change that. I'm just wondering, I was going to use polished ink, I'm not. I'm going to use the grey ink. I think that will be better. There we are. I love this sort of handwritten font. My handwriting is appalling. It's not nearly as nice as that. And I'm going to stamp exactly the same inside. If you're nervous about stamping on your card base, you can cut an insert. Just cut it the same size as the contrast card layer. But I like to take a risk. All right, and then I decided it needed a little finishing touch, so I decided that I would just go cute. I don't very often do cute, but I do love this bunny, and he or she is very cute. In this case, it's a she. So I've got some of the brushed brass butterflies, and I coloured them. I coloured that one with my polished pink Stampin Blends, and that one with my Magenta Madness Stampin Blends, just to see if one was better than the other. And although this pink is actually polished pink, because I'm colouring over the top of gold, I think the magenta gives me the closer colour, in fact, because it's pinker and it seems to compensate for the gold undertones. So I just think I'm just going to tuck that there like a little hair decoration for my very sweet bunny. And the last thing I'm going to do is tuck a glue dot underneath that ribbon bow, just to stop it moving, because it's not sliding around the card, but it's sitting a little bit proud. And there we are. There is my first Easter card with a very cute Easter bunny on it. And I made another one in different colours because it's often nice to see an alternative. So there is that one. For this one, instead of a butterfly, I gave it a flower, and I've coloured it in crumb cake blends rather than smoky slate. I've used paper from the same pack, but this time it's soft succulent. I've used the coordinating soft succulent ribbon, and my coloured layer is Daffodil Delight. So I must admit, I am pleased with those. I do like an Easter bunny, and this is a very sweet one. So I'm going to drink some of my tea while you have a quick look at that, and then I'll clear away and we'll do something else. Just moved my extension lead out of the way because nobody needs to look at that. I'm going to clean my stamps so they don't put ink on everything. Actually, the only thing I haven't done is to stamp on my envelope. So let me just do that before I clean the stamp. Sometimes with a big stamp it's easier to bring the ink pad to the stamp rather than the other way around. So let's just pop the rabbit there. There we are. Now that's going to be nice coming through the post, isn't it? If that got sent to somebody who'd also got their council tax bill like Belinda did, then I know jolly well which one they would be opening first as well. I'm going to clear a bit of a space, put all these bits and pieces away. And then I will pull out everything I'm going to need for the next card. Oh, and I know what I meant to say to you, and I forgot the little flower on here. This is using one of the dies from this set, which is the Bouquet of Love. It's the one that comes with a hybrid embossing folder where you can cut and emboss all in one pass through your machine. And it's got these nice labels, but then it's also got some little flowers and a little heart as well as the larger hearts. So it's one of those that I used for my bunny with flower. Know if you've got any questions or any comments. I'm always happy to answer questions as we go through. Alright, so just going to move this grid paper actually before I do anything else. Let's push that back, try and give you a little bit more that you can see. There we are. I think that's better, isn't it? Just ignore the tripod leg, it's not there. Alright, so for this card I've gone with something that's a bit less obviously Eastery and more easily perhaps something you can see for alternative occasions, but I have stuck with a real spring palette of colour. So I've got white and then I've got Granny Apple Green and Daffodil Delight. I love this green, it's really vivid, and with everything outside just growing like crazy at the moment, it seems like the right colour to use for spring. So I've gone with standard card sizes for this. So my card base is 4 by 11.5, scored at 5 3/4, which in the UK at least is a standard size of card base if you're wanting a landscape one. Then this layer is just 1/4 inch smaller all round. It's 5.5 by 3 3/4. My white layer is actually only an 1/8 of an inch smaller than that because I just wanted a hint of green around it. So that is 5 3/8 of an inch by 3 5/8 of an inch. Now I thought I'd written that down. I don't seem to have done, so let me quickly write that down. Does that help you? If you're not interested in the measurements, let me know, but a lot of people ask for them. Card base, 11.5 by 4 inches, scored at 5 3/4 of an inch. Contrast card, you can see what I meant about my writing. The contrast card is 5.5 inches by 3 3/4 of an inch, and the white layer is 5 3/8 of an inch by 3 5/8 of an inch. There we go. Just checking I wasn't getting my 3s and my 5s confused. So let's leave that there. I embossed my white layer using the Ornate Floral embossing folder, which is really lovely, and it gives embossing at different depths. It's a 3D folder, so there are several depths of embossing there. It's one I really do like. Then I've got a Granny Apple Green and a white layer here, which I have cut using the Stitched So Sweetly dies. Now, from the number of these that have been ordered from me, probably most of you have got them by now, but if you haven't, you really will enjoy having these in your crafting stash. The set comes with a set of nesting stitched scalloped rectangles. That small one is perfect for a label, but obviously you can layer them up as much as you like. And then it also comes with a set of 4 nesting dies, which are different kinds of shapes, and you can mix and match them right across. Excuse me, I seem to have hiccups. They're a lovely set of dies. So I've used 2 of the rectangles to cut my levels here. I'm just going to have to drink something or I'm going to be hiccuping again. And the other thing that I have used is the Pearlescent Paper, and I've got a piece here to show you. This is super easy to miss in the annual catalogue. I wanted some butterflies and I wanted them yellow and I wanted them shimmery, so I've used the Pearlescent Paper. I think it's incredibly good value. If you've got your annual catalogue, it's on page 135. You get 2 12 by 12 sheets for £3.75. And if you think that, you know, I've cut these little butterflies out, you can see that you're only likely to be using small pieces at a time if you're using them for embellishments. So it does really go a long way. And I actually coloured mine. It's a sort of an ivory colour with sort of a gold, slightly gold shimmery finish. I've no idea how well that will show up if I tilt it slightly. Yeah, it looks like it's showing you as being much more yellow than it actually is. It's an ivory colour, but I wanted to make it more yellow, so I've got my Daffodil Delight ink pad here, and I'm going to just use my blending brush on it and add some ink. So you can go as intense or keep it as subtle as you like. Let's see if I can make that end a little bit more intense. So I always just rub the brush on. I usually use a clear block, but I haven't remembered to put one out, a blank one with no stamp on it. But grid paper will work as well, or scrap paper, just to make sure you've got no blob of ink somewhere sitting on your brush, because if you have, that will transfer. And then it's just a case of rubbing in the ink until you have the colour as intense as you want. And I think you can probably see the difference there from the colour that the card actually is to when I've coloured it in. This will take a little while to dry. I coloured these and left them. If you can leave it overnight, that's great. It doesn't need that long unless it's particularly cold and damp where you are. If it's warm or sunny, or if it's not too humid. It will dry quite fast, but it takes longer to dry than it does on something like our basic white card, because there's a slight finish on this, a slight sort of sheen to it. But you can colour your pearlescent paper. I think is it pearlescent paper? I wrote it down. What do they call it? Pearlescent specialty paper. Yeah, your paper. Any colour you like. You could use a sponge dauber. You could also colour it if you wanted to with Stampin Blends. But I like to use the ink blending brush because I feel I have more control. So then, out of my yellow pearlescent paper, I cut 3 little butterflies using the Meadows dies. These were in the Autumn Winter Catalogue, but they have carried over. They are beautiful. I love the floral shapes, the sort of wildflowers. I've also cut some labels using that die, so we'll be using one of those. There's a tiny tag, which is gorgeous, and then there's a butterfly, and then like a sideways butterfly as well, plus some leaves. Or flower centres. I've used them both ways. So those are the dies I use to cut my butterflies. Right, so now let's actually make something. So I'm going to tie some ribbon around my embossed white card. Now this is the white seam binding ribbon, probably my favourite ribbon in the catalogue. Looks like I've come to the end of it, another reel. I don't know how many of these I've bought. And I've coloured it with my Stampin Blends. So you may have seen me do that before. In case you haven't, I'm just going to very quickly show you again. So this is my Granny Apple Green Stampin Blend. It's the dark one, and it's just a case of stroking the colour over the ribbon like that. It dries very quickly indeed. It does change the texture of the ribbon. It makes it slightly crunchy, but it doesn't affect how you use it. But it does mean that you can have ribbon again in any colour you like. So most of our materials that are white or ivory, you can change to fit in with your colour scheme, just with a little bit of know-how. Alright, so I'm going to bring the ribbon round the middle of my card and tie a bow just slightly in from the side, and I've got a twist. Let's just sort that out. Oh, messed that up. Let's try again. Some days my fingers want to cooperate and some days they really don't. Let's try again. There we go. So I don't want this to be too large a bow. I don't want it to dominate, but I do love ribbon on cards. Alright, and I'm going to put this green layer on here. Slightly skew-if, but I can sort that out with a glue dot. So I'm just going to slide the ribbon across before it's fixed in place, to make sure that I can put this green layer centrally on the card. Yeah, which I can. So that's about the right place. So I'm going to tuck a glue dot. I'm just going to pick it up with my scissors and tuck it underneath the knot on that ribbon, and then just stick it down so that the ribbon is straight, and like magic that slightly twisted ribbon will now sit nice and straight, and nobody needs to know that I've cheated with a glue dot. And that end is far too long. Let's trim that off a bit more. That's better. Alright, so this layer is ready, and now I'm also just going to add a glue dot on the back, just to make sure that ribbon isn't flapping around when I'm trying to glue the layers together. There we are. So bring back my card base, bring back my Granny Apple Green layer, You're all very quiet. You've either all gone to make a cup of tea or you're beavering away. Is anybody crafting with me? I know some of you like to craft along, some of you like to do something else, like knitting while you're watching. Some of you like to just watch and craft later. So let me know what you're doing. There. So my ribbon is neatly tucked behind those layers. And next I'm going to add my Granny Apple Green one. I'm going to pop this up on some dimensionals. I've got a nice new sheet here with some nice edge pieces, so I'm going to use some of those. I'm just snipping them. If you've used these before, you'll know that it's effectively the waste from when I've used the individual sticky pads. It forms a frame all the way around the outside. So I'm just snipping it into pieces that are going to be the right size to use. So Carol is trying to acrylic paint a marmalade jar and stay awake. I wonder which of those is the hardest for you today, Carol. I have a feeling it might be the staying awake. When you're feeling sleepy, it has a way of taking over, doesn't it? But anyway, good luck with painting your marmalade jar. I assume you're painting a picture of a marmalade jar rather than putting acrylic paint onto a marmalade jar. And yes, I use quite a lot of dimensionals because I do not want this to dip down in the middle, and if it goes through the post office machinery, then all those rollers and pressing things will probably push it down, so I like to make sure it's really well supported. There we are, and then I'm just going to glue my white layer flat on top. So I just need some decoration for that now. So I'm going to bring in one of these little die cut labels, and I think this stamp, which is from Timeless Tulips, is going to fit, and it's this one: Happy Easter, Happy Spring, Happy Happy Everything, which is a very jolly little sentiment, I think. I like that. So let me just hold it over the top. Yeah, actually that's going to fit in there perfectly. Let me make sure my label is straight. Apologies if you get the top of my head as I stamp. Carol says she needs me to read her a story and she'd be off. Bliss. She's so knackered. Yeah, she's painting a picture of a jar. It's a lot harder than it sounds, getting the glass right and the lids are not very polite word. I would think it is tricky, Carol. Glass is phenomenally difficult to paint so that it looks right. So I take my hat off to you for even trying. Alright, so I'm going to pop this little label here, and this end needs to be on a dimensional so it's on the same level as those layers there. So I'm going to tuck a dimensional there, and then I'm just going to put glue on the rest of the label. There we are. And then finally I'm going to bring in my die cut butterflies. I'm going to put my thumbnail to the side of the body and then just fold the butterfly up, and then put my thumbnail to the other side of the butterfly and fold the wing up on that side as well. And that just gives them a little bit of dimension. And then I'll only put glue onto the bodies and leave the wings loose. And they will get a bit flat in the envelope, but they still look a little bit perkier than if they are just glued entirely flat. And oh, excuse me, I was trying to tell you I was about to sneeze, but I sneezed before I could tell you. All right, something like that, I think, these little butterflies. So this isn't really an Easter card subject matter at all. This is more of a spring or summer card. I'm not a religious person, so I never make religious Easter cards, but you could, of course, use your favourite religious Easter image stamps or words on any of these cards. So just use what you like, use what you've got. If you love something I've used, let me know and I can order it for you. And I have got an order going in tomorrow if there's anything you want me to add in a hurry for you. Then these are some of the in-coloured jewels. These are the pale papaya ones, but they are actually quite yellow, particularly if you put them against yellow. That seems to pick out the yellow in them. So that is my card front. And I'm sure you can see how easy it would be to put something else on there and turn it into a card for a different occasion. And then I've got my, what is this? Insert. I've got my card insert. Losing my words entirely today. And I'm going to use that same Happy Easter stamp from the Easter Friends stamp set. Just to finish that off. Pop that inside, and then that's card number 2 made. There we are. And I did make another one in some different colours just to show you an alternative. There we are. So this one is pale papaya and calypso coral. I've coloured pearlescent paper for the butterflies in just the same way, except I've made some of it darker and some of it much lighter coral. And I've used the pale papaya ribbon on this instead, but other than that it's exactly the same card. Let's lift that one up to show you. Working out where to hold these is really difficult. I need to hold them much further forward than I feel like I do. There we are. All right, once again, I'm going to have a bit of a clear up, clean my stamps. I'll leave those there for you to look at. And then we'll be on to the last card of the day, which doesn't seem possible. Those out of the way. And then bring in my last card. And I have written the measurements for this one. I don't know why I didn't for that first one. Alright, so this time I'm going to make a square card. Sadly we don't have square envelopes, so I shall make one for this. But it's nice just sometimes to make something that's a little bit different in shape or size to a standard card. So this is thick white card again, and it was 9 inches by 4.5 inches, scored at 4.5 inches, and that gives me a nice square card. So if you have a 5-inch square envelope, that will comfortably fit into it. If you're making your own, you can make one that is perfectly sized for it. Now for this I'm using slightly less traditional spring colours. I'm actually working with Gorgeous Grape, which is quite an intense colour, but what I'm going to do is add a lot of white and only have hints of the purple. And for me, that tones it down tremendously and makes it into more of a spring card. In this case, more of an Easter card, and possibly just something that is a little bit more modern maybe than the other ones that I've shown you. So I'm working today, or not today, well today yes, but on this particular card with the colour and contour stamps. I haven't inked these up for a little while, but they are really lovely. There's some floral ones, there's some nice words. The font on these is really quite modern as well, which I like. I love a spatter stamp. That's always handy for filling in backgrounds or covering up ink smudges. So I was happy to see that. So I'm going to stamp that twice, and then I've stamped it a third time on some scrap paper and cut it out, because you know how to cut things out. I will just lift it up and show you. Is that easier on a dark background? It might be. So you'll see when I stamp it that this is not a stamp with a definite outline. You have to make a few decisions when you're cutting it out, because some of the bits are not obvious to see that there is sort of an outline to it, but that's okay. It doesn't matter how you cut it out, it will be fine. It's also one where it's two-step stamping, so you stamp the outline and then you stamp the colouring in part, and the colouring in part of the flower doesn't fit perfectly within the outline, which is great because it means it's very, very forgiving. So you'll see now as I do that. So I've got my Gorgeous Grape ink pad, and I've got my 2 flower stamps. So I'm using these 2 images here, and having said that this one does not have to perfectly fit in here, which it doesn't, I do find that there is one way it fits best, and that is if you orient this one and this one the way they are on the box, then they do fit together better. And I have in fact, if you can see, marked a little black arrow on my well-used stamp. If you can see that, it's just there in the middle. Tip it a little bit and see. And then I've also marked an arrow on the outline stamp at the top here. And so I have those 2 arrows pointing in the same direction when I stamp with them. It's very hard for you to see, I think, but it may show a little bit better when I'm stamping on a white background. And if those are pointing the same way, then for me that's the best fit of the flowers, but it's not crucial, so you can do them any way you like. So I'm first of all, let me do that very well, it was on an uneven surface. Let's ink up my outline stamp, and I've got my arrow pointing up there. So when I ink up my shadow stamp, I'm also going to do the same, and I should have had a stamping mat under here. That's better. And then I've got a little bit of scrap here. I'm just going to stamp off once on there so that there's much less ink on here. And it won't be quite so intense when it stamps. So I've oriented the arrow the same way, and there we are. Then I'm going to stamp it once more across here. I'll just turn the stamp slightly so they don't look like I've just gone plonk plonk. So this time the arrow is going up that way. Again, I'm just going to stamp off and take off some of that ink. Look for where my arrow is. and then stamp that over the top. And this piece of card is 3.5 inches square. I don't think I said that. All right, so I'm going to layer those up now. I've got my piece of Gorgeous Grape, which is just 1/8 of an inch a bigger all round. So this is 3 5/8 inches square. And actually I'm not going to do that first because I haven't stamped my spatters yet. I need to do those first. And actually I'm just going to tuck that mat under my grid paper because I will probably go over the edge. So I've just stamped off on my grid paper so it's not such an intense colour, and I'm just going to roughly go in a triangle. So the cutout flower I've got is here, so you can see I've gone in a rough triangle here, and then I've kind of filled in the gaps with my spatters. That's kind of what I'm thinking with the design, and I think that's enough spattering, so I am now going to layer that on here. That up before I put my arm across it. Alright, and this flower is going to go here up on some dimensionals, and I'm just going to give it just a little bit of shape. So I'm just gently curling the ends of the petals. It will probably go flat in the envelope, to be honest, but it'll look nice now. So that's going to go there. Let's pop a few dimensionals on the back of it. And before I fix it on, I'm going to add some ribbon. This is the Gorgeous Grape sheer ribbon. So again, although it's an intense colour, it is sheer, so it's not too dominating. And I'm going to play, I haven't done one quite like this to show you afterwards, so I just thought I would play a bit, yeah. So I'm going to make some loops of ribbon and hold them in place with mini glue dots. So I'm going to put a glue dot on the end of my ribbon there, and then just make a loop, and then the glue dot will hold that loop in place. And then I'm going to put a glue dot on the back. So here's my ribbon curled up, and then I'm just going to fold the ribbon behind at a slight angle, and the glue dot I just put on there is holding that ribbon there. And then I'm going to make another loop like that. There's nothing awfully scientific about which way I bend the ribbon, whether I bend it towards me or behind. It's just whatever feels right at the time. And then I'm going to snip that off. Now this doesn't look very pretty, but it's going to be, the top is going to be hidden, so you'll just see the loops. Something like that. And then I just want another one over there, I think. So same again. Oh, that's my last glue dot. Fortunately, I have more. I'm just going to straight cut the edge of that just to make it. Those have cut paper, but you know that they will not then want to cut ribbon. There we are. Very important to have a separate pair of scissors for ribbon. Okay, let's get rid of that. And I have a new box of glue dots. Hooray. Right, where was I? So I folded up the front. I'm going to put a glue dot on the back at the top of that loop, and then fold the long length of ribbon down. Not directly behind it, but out slightly at an angle. And then back up behind. And I'm going to do one more, so this one is going to have 3 loops on it. The first one I did had 2 loops. Just to make it a little bit different. There we are. So let me just pop those on here and I'll try and lift them up and show you so that you can see what I had done. Wait for my iPad to catch up so you can see. Yeah, I think that's, ooh, no, that's hopeless. Let's bring it back a little bit better. Oh dear me. There we are. I think you can see that anyway. All right, so I'm now going to position these on here where the top ends are going to be hidden by the flower, and it's just a case of kind of playing around a little bit to see where looks right. I think something like that. So glue dots again. If you like to work with ribbon, glue dots are your friend. They hold ribbon brilliantly. They're an instant grab. Where a liquid glue might soak through, a glue dot isn't going to. There we are. And then finally, I'm going to stick this flower on. Where should we have it? Something like that. There we are. And then that is going to go onto my card base, which I've put things on. There we are. So I'm not actually putting any words on this at all on the front. I'm just going to pop them inside. And then just for a little bit of contrast and bling, I have a couple of these lovely little gold bees. I really love these. So once again, glue dots are what you want to hold them on with. I usually put things on in 3s, but I like 2 bees on this. Then inside I'm going to stamp the flower outline over the corner and add some words. This time I'm using the one from the Easter Friends stamp set, sending warm and happy wishes this spring. So I could then write underneath that Happy Easter, or it could be a birthday card or anything. So that's quite a nice general card. A bit of a raggy edge on that. Let me just sort that out. Must need to change my trimmer blade. There we are. So that's my final card, and I've got one just in a different colour to show you, because if you really hate purple, sometimes it's hard to see beyond the colour, isn't it? So I've done this one in Misty Moonlight. So you can see it's essentially the same card. I've coloured some of the seam binding ribbon with my Misty Moonlight Stampin Blends marker. I've placed things a little bit differently. I've tied a double loop bow here instead of doing the loops of ribbon. And I actually stamped thank you inside. Those words are from Happy and Heartfelt. There's the thank you. I love this font, this sort of handwritten font. Slightly scribbly, but neat. Unlike my writing, which is just slightly scribbly. Lift that one up a little bit for you. See if I can get it to focus, see if I can get it in the right place, which is always a little bit of a question. No, it's too far back. Let's move it forwards. That's better, I think. All right. So that is the end of what I was going to show you. I'm going to turn the camera back the other way. No, I'm not. First of all, I'm going to bring out all the cards. Let's bring out all the cards I made. That's what I do next, isn't it? There we are. So there are 3 ideas for Easter cards. But if you don't like Easter cards, don't make Easter cards. Make birthday cards, make best wishes cards. Whatever you need. You can use these same layouts with all sorts of different images and colours. So I hope you've enjoyed them. I've had a lot of fun making them. Now I'm going to turn the camera back up and say goodbye to you. Okay. Right, let's just... Hopefully I've taken off the reverse one. Yes, I have. Sometimes I end up upside down, but not today. Good. Well, thank you so much for joining me. As always, I've had a lot of fun in your company. I've enjoyed chatting. If you've missed bits, if you've come in late, you can watch the replay here, and then later on this afternoon, if you prefer, you can go to YouTube and see it on my YouTube channel there, which is Handmade at Home with Sally Bowman. So it's the same name as this page, hopefully making it easy to find. Once again, my personal plea to like and share this, or like and subscribe to it on YouTube. Because that really helps me get seen by people who might not otherwise have found me. Next week I will be back here, and I'm going to be creating with the, now I've written it down because I can never remember the name, Paradise Palms stamp set. I'm going to be dreaming of summer and creating with that. So if you're interested in that, come back and join me next week, Friday at 2 o'clock, when I will be live here. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. I think the weather's going to hold, certainly in the UK. So enjoy that, and I will be back with you soon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye. She says, trying to get it to turn off. Right, I'm going now.